before I could even do this, yeah? And I don't want to pretend who I can see is older than me, but if you know you're older than me, Tobago, I'm looking at you.
Come on, it's an honor.
No, I'm only asking for your permission to pour. You don't need to come yet. Is that okay? On Dawn? Is it okay for me to pour the libation?
Yeah, it's okay if it's rum.
You want to hold my mic as well? Thank you. All right, so without ado, and perfectly as we are out here, we are going to pour libation to the gods of our African ancestors, who were known by many different names throughout time and space. We have many, many names for our ancestors. Does anybody know any of the names that we called our gods? Ogun, Oludumare, these are the creator gods. The creator god, not the Orisha god, not the Orishas. We're looking at the
Oludumare.
And when we pour, we can say Ashe, meaning that's it, that's the power we're focusing. So when we pour Nyame,
Ashe,
Nyankompon,
Ashe,
Amen,
Ashe,
going, who else? Oludumare,
Ashe,
Kuku, Ashe, Maulisa,
Ashe,
anyone else?
Ogun,
Ashe, Ashe,
Ashe, Eshu,
Ashe. These are now the Neterus we are calling on. Okay. It's what we're using here, and we acknowledge that we are all composed of water. That is a vital element, and we in our tradition would naturally acknowledge water. So we pour libation to that element. Ashe,
she's just behind.
Air or wind, which is our breath, gives us life, gives us that vital force. The prana, Ashe. We pour libation also to fire, which we all need. Not only to warm us up, but to increase our awareness, our knowledge, and to also give us that spark, give us the passion, give us our vital force to enable us to keep going and doing this work of struggling continuously to survive in this system and in all the other systems. Okay, so we say Ashe to the fire.
Ashe.
And we say, and we acknowledge the earth, without which we are nothing. We are composed of that, the minerals of the earth. We are composed of the vital essence of the earth and the elements thereof. So we must give thanks and acknowledge the blessings of Mother Earth. Asaseya in other traditions, we say Ashe. And of course, we must acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge the ancestors in our the remote and distant past. Those ancestors who were the civilization creators and builders before we were here in this hemisphere. We acknowledge those ancestors. We acknowledge those ancestors who were creators in other spheres throughout the different disciplines that we know, whether it's in art, whether it's in architecture, whatever the thing that we have civilization from, we acknowledge all of those ancestors for giving us those. Because we must remember that we weren't always enslaved peoples. Ashe. Ashe. And of course we then acknowledge those ancestors indeed who struggled in that period, later period of our enslavement, and that has brought us here. So we acknowledge all of them in their many guises, in their many forms, and it is for their struggle and for their strife that we are actually here gathered. So we must acknowledge them. We can, if you like, call on some of them. Particularly we can call on Olauda Equiano, because he's going to speak today. Ashe. Who else can we call on? Ashe. Who else can we call on? Let's call their name. Ashe. Ya Asantewa. Ashe. Nanny of the Moon. Ashe.
Washington.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Francis Cress Wilson.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Phyllis Wheatley,
Ashe. Ashe. Winnie Mandela. Ashe. Ashe.
Toni Morrison.
Ashe. Ashe. Anyone else? Come on. Ashe. Ashe.
Toussaint Louverture,
Diana. Ashe. Ashe.
Morris Bishop,
Ashe.
Sojourner Truth,
Ashe.
Paul Bogle,
Ashe. Ashe. Desaline. Ashe. Ashe. Cecile Fatiman. Ashe.
Godfrey and God.
Ashe. We done? We're not done. Others we haven't called on to say with this event.
abolition of slavery.
I know everybody had problems with that title, yeah?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're not calling them in that simply in that guise. We are calling them to enable us through their invisible but yet potent power to continue to strengthen us and elevate us and to enable us to continue struggling, not only to say we have a momentary fleeting event like this, but that we also have full, competent, efficient and effective reparatory justice. That's why we are calling these energies, and it's not to say this kind of like pretty moment. We are calling on them to keep up that drive to ensure that their descendants are fully repaired, because a lot of us are indeed experiencing damages and ravages that are ongoing, and we need that to end. So when we call on them knowing that they are here to fully support and help and strengthen each and every one of us. So that when these young people are our age, because we'll be tired in a few, no, maybe I'm not. They will have the full capacity knowing that when they stand here, they stand on the shoulders of those ancestors. I'm going to pass this to you now so you can do pouring. And when you do the pouring, the reason why the brother's here is because we have to have the balance, yes? So you're going to pour now. When people call on your individual ancestors, you can call them as much as you want, because we've done the calling the wider ancestors. But importantly, we need to remember our respective and individual ancestors first, okay? So we're going to do that. So I can start or you can start, it doesn't matter. Have you got an ancestor that you want to call, your direct line ancestor?
My grandma's.
What's your grandmother's name? Popsy. Ashe. Anyone else?
Mommy Cupid,
Ashe.
Charles Benjamin James,
Ashe.
Ina
Keep going.
Evans,
Ashe.
Evelyn Agard,
Ashe.
Elsie Wicks,
Ashe.
Brenda Agard,
Ashe. Ashe. Keep going. Ashe. Keep going. Ashe. 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 Felicia Saul. Ashe. Keep going.
Shezal Laing.
Ashe. Just keep doing it.
Chioma Akalawu,
Keep doing it. Ashe. Don't wait. Keep doing it. Your grandparents, your parents, your whoever, don't be in no building. We're outside. Yes, Ashe, come on. Ashe. Ashe, good. Ashe. Ashe, come on. Ashe. Come on. Ashe. And all other ancestors that we have not necessarily called right now, but they're our line ancestors, know that we are here to honor them and acknowledge them. We call on you to be with us, to sustain us, to guide us, empower us always. And we also call on those ancestors that are in the womb, that are in the ancestral realm, that are coming forward. And we ask that they come with perfect, vital messages for us to help us from the ancestral realm to do our work. So we call them on board. We've still got loads of this water left. You will go home and enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will recover my bag from that building and the drummers. But I think we can have Tobago Crusoe. We'll have you guys back soon. This is like your land.
I could make it. So it's just, did anyone in the audience, have you left anything inside? Yes. Apart from performers, we know where your stuff is. Is there anyone else who's left stuff in the chamber? Could you just put your hand up? Could you just come to that side and we'll try and extract stuff for you. But and all of your stuff we're also going to try and take
Lovely, wonderful. Tobago. Hey, Uncle Eric, yay! So now we're going to hear from Tobago Crusoe. Give him a round of applause.
Now, this kaiso embodies the emotion felt by the enslaved Africans in the Caribbean. It was written by Francisco Slinger, known in the kaiso world as the Mighty Sparrow. Called the Slave. I'm a slave from a land so far. I was caught and I was brought here from Africa. I'm a slave from a land so far. I was caught and I was brought here from Africa. Well, it was mixed like fire from the white slave master every day. I down on my knees. It took me weeks and weeks to cross the seas, to reach in the West Indies. Then they make me work. Oh yes, I work. Oh Lord, each day I toil, I toil, I toil and I toil. Oh Lord, oh babe, I'm dying. I'm dying. Oh Lord, I wanna be free. Many times I try to run, but the English slave master standing there with the gun. And I know he's shooting to kill, but I stayed, I prayed, but I'm planning to stay. I saw this night and day how to get away. I had to make a brilliant escape. But every time I studied them whip and them dogs, my belly does start to shake. Because they make me work. Oh yes, I work. Oh Lord, each day. Yes, I toil, I toil, I toil and I toil. Oh Lord, no pain. I'm a dying. I'm a dying. Oh Lord, I wanna be free. In my heart, there was much to say, and I hope that the boss will listen to me one day. Though he knew my request was small, but was he sing and the whip to answer me when I call? We understand and sing to express our feelings to this cruel and wicked man. That was the only medicine to make him listen, and he's so kind, so big, because he let me work. Oh yes, I work. Oh Lord, each day I toil, I toil, I toil and I toil. Oh Lord, no pain. I'm a dying. I'm a dying. some. I was there, put out on the street. Got no home, got no clothes, I got nothing to eat. I forgot my native father from the White House.
Okay, so we were supposed to have a keynote by David Olusoga, and I believe he also has flown the ground. Okay, so Toyin, you got anything you want to say in that slot?
Toyin?
Yeah.
Toyin.
Toyin. Supposed to happen. But if maybe you could speak to something that comes to your mind, or resistance really, which would have been the plug.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
So I don't know where to stand. I feel like I'm disrespectful. It's really interesting what's happened today.
Yeah.
Because we were supposed to be inside the building having this commemoration, and something took place that we didn't expect. History altered itself. And that's very much like the history of African people. What happened, people were actually at home, and then due to a course of history, they were forcibly removed, enslaved, and taken to the Caribbean, to the Americas. And now we are this diaspora of 1 billion people all over this planet Earth. But what I want to say is that right now, at this moment, this is what I love. You see, because for change to actually really happen, it means that sometimes you've got to think on your feet. It means sometimes you've got to say to yourself, actually, you know what? This is the hand that's been dealt to me, but I don't have to play that hand. What we can do is be creative and remember that there are things that are greater than the rules and the laws, because you've often heard that slavery was supposed to be lawful at the time. It clearly was not. So I just want to say thank you to everyone here for coming down as well. Today's the anniversary of my father passing.
Ashe.
And I mean, I'm wearing his top. Which is probably why I've got this courage to talk right now. But I don't know what else I'm going to say.
That's fantastic.
I'll say thank you.
Thank you so much. We shall continue the program, no matter what. I know there's some people that want to do a poem in a minute. Let's get through this particular order, because there are people who actually came here on invite. Shezal Laing, could you come and do us your reading, which you have with you? Who has the reading? Did anyone manage to have? Oh, you have the acknowledgement. No, you wanted the reading, but you're going to find some portion of it. I think they were going to try and reduce it down.
I'm not going to do the reading. I don't.
You're going to do your own thing. Your own thing. Good.
So, hello everyone. My name is Shezal. I am the founder of Slavery Remembrance, and we hold a memorial every year in Tobago Square called Sankofa Day, and it's to remember and honour the ancestors and mark UNESCO's International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and Abolition. That's a big long name. Some of you will have our Sankofa, like the Remembrance Sankofa, and some of you got them, some of you didn't. Yes, they have them there. So that's our Remembrance Sankofa. Our memorial this year was Saturday just gone. It fell on Marcus Garvey's birthday, so we were very blessed. It was in Trafalgar Square. We had a really, really great and powerful day. And I just want to share two things that happened on that day that reminded me why it's so important, or not reminded me because I know already, but compounded the reasons as to why it's so important that we remember our ancestors and this horrible history that is so often brushed aside or not taught properly. So during the memorial this year in Trafalgar Square, there was a protest that happened halfway through. Vegan protesters, for those of you that were there. I'm not projecting enough apparently. Can you hear me at the back now? So there was a protest happening, I feel like I'm really shouting now, during our memorial this year. It was a
vegan protest, and there were thousands of people chanting on the other side of Nelson's column, which filtered through to our memorial. And I don't know how it managed to happen, seeing as we had permissions and they did too. But either way, I went to look for the organisers to say, look, can you please move your people on? Because it was supposed to be Parliament Square anyway. And as I was looking for the organisers, a young black girl who was part of the vegan protest came up to me and said, what's happening over there? And I explained that it's a memorial for her ancestors, our ancestors, the victims of the transatlantic slave trade, the Ma'afa or the Manganese, whichever you choose to call it. And she got really teary-eyed, and she sort of clutched her heart and she said, I feel really torn. This is one of those times where I feel really torn because I want to be there, but I want to be here now as well. But I didn't know that your event was happening, and I'm really sorry. And I was like, don't apologise. It's not your fault. You didn't know. Don't be silly. And she was really teary-eyed. So I gave her a hug and said, don't worry, it's fine. Just, you know, I gave her a hug and I left her and went about my business. And then yesterday, there was a street photographer who was at the event, and he sent through a load of photographs he took at the event. And on one of those photographs was this girl. So she'd actually left the vegan protest to participate in Sankofa Day, and she was staring at the stage and looking. And we did a remembrance wall with 400 of those children listed, and they start from as young as 1, so just babies that were taken, stolen, and be ready to be sold as illegal property. And I posted an image, I posted the remembrance wall on our social media page. And I'm just going to get, because this morning I was looking at the post and someone left a comment, and again it compounded why this is so incredibly important that we remember, that we have a space to remember. And so I'm going to read the comment. It says, this means that, and this was about the remembrance wall, this means so much to my family. My great-grandfather was one of these children illegally captured by Spanish traders on the East Coast. Sorry, I get really.